And yes, a very big welcome back to the channel. And in the previous video we left at this point, Miley trying to feed the first chick, and ultimately unsuccessfully, as we just saw, he ends up eating the food. Now, as I said, I'm pretty sure that these chicks are born with a belly full of yolk after hatching, so in the first half an hour or so, they're pretty okay for food, but the more the feeds, the better. We see Biddy straight in, as there is still eggs there to be incubated and still chicks to be hatched. Along with that chick that is hatched also needs to be kept warm. So it's a full-time job, and they're certainly not out of the woods yet. But I dare say it is looking promising. Biddy is keeping those chicks and eggs warm, as I said, but Miley is being a great father and bringing in loads of food. You can see him bringing in some food here and passing it to Biddy. Even she takes a few tries to get it off him, and then she proceeds to try to feed the chicks. A nice family shot of them both there. So will this be a successful feeding? And it even turns out not to be, as we just saw. These chicks are awful finicky to feed for the very first stages of their life. They are weak, and they're basically just not very strong and not very aware. Sometimes the parents can be seen repeatedly calling, like we've seen, and to no movement of the chicks. Now, it could be that the chicks are just not that hungry. I have hand reared some of these chicks in the past, and let me tell you, when they're this young, it can be awful hard to get them to feed, and it's a very, very finicky and tricky process. And so an hour later, we see Biddy get up and leave, and we see, I think, is a second egg hatching. Miley's straight in to try to feed the chicks. Biddy tends to leave when she hears Miley coming in. He must do some sort of contact call, and then she leaves because he comes quite promptly straight in. So if you look closely there, you can see a chick in two halves, still in two halves of both eggs that's been split open. And there is a second chick, the first chick, just out of sight behind those feathers. If you look closely, when he tries to feed the chick in the top right corner just there, you can spot some movement. So how will Miley fare on this feed? You can see he has a little tiny white grub or caterpillar there, a perfect size for those little chicks, and you can see the first chick gaping. If you look carefully behind that feather there, will he do a successful feed? You can see he's doing his contact call to try to coax those chicks into gaping for that food. But no, he gives up and takes the food himself, and instead decides to take out an eggshell of one of the newly hatched chicks. And he wouldn't have dropped that eggshell straight outside the nest box. He would have flown some distance from the nest and then dropped it randomly at some point. So that's why if you're ever out for a walk during spring, you randomly find half a bird's egg maybe in the middle of the footpath. You're wondering, why in God's name is there a bird's egg here? I don't see any nests. Well, that's because they take it a distance from the nest to try to protect the nests from different predators, as predators are pretty smart, and if they were going to drop their eggshells right below their nest, well, they wouldn't be long putting one and one together and figuring out where these nests are. So we can see the view of two chicks there. You can see the red blob on the top right, and then another little red blob on the left. They're very cute at this stage. Well, it's one of those cases of face only a mother could love. I think they're cute. A lot of people think they're hideous little things, but I just think they are adorable at this stage. And look, we even get a successful feed. It's Biddy, I believe, straight in, feeds the chick, no hassle, no mess, and there's a little grub for that chick there. I've always found the first couple of days to be probably the most crucial in these chicks' life. It's so close to the wire, their energy needs and what they get from their parents, that bad weather or a lack of food can really very quickly make chicks perish. It is really a fine line they walk in the first couple of days, and it always just never ceases to amaze me that these chicks survive at all. And if there's ever a bit of a period where Miley hasn't came back with a bit of food, Biddy will actually step out and get some food. We see she does this here. She leaves and she comes back a little while later, 4 minutes later, with a little morsel of food for one of the chicks. I always think it's amazing that the female birds are always that little bit better at feeding the chicks. It's obviously something to do with mother's love. They seem to have a softer touch and a better way with the chicks, especially in the early days, because as time goes on, the males do get better at it. So the rest of the 6 played out pretty much as we have seen. And so we jump to the 7th. We're at 6:30 in the morning. It's first thing on the 7th of May. And we see Miley in with a little bit of food. Will he have a little bit of better luck in feeding the chicks this day? He tries for quite a couple of minutes. And we can see here, a full 2 minutes later, he is still attempting to feed the chick. And eventually Biddy actually arrives in as well and gives us a lovely little family portrait. But in the commotion, Miley actually manages to feed one of the chicks. So a great success for him. He usually opts to just give the food to Biddy, who then feeds the chicks, but this time he actually managed to do it himself, which is great. And then Biddy proceeds to feed the little bit of food that she had brought in to the chicks as well. And we saw there that another eggshell was taken out, so I do believe there may be 2 or 3 maybe chicks hatched at the moment. But Biddy and Miley seem to be doing a great job so far. It's a world of a difference compared to this time last year when we were watching them. There was rain, there was storms, and the chicks of last year just didn't really stand a chance, unfortunately. Already they were showing signs of weakening after the first day, but as we can see here, loads of food is being brought in. I'm not seeing anything too worrying. And I remember looking at the live stream and thinking the exact same. So hopefully as I go through the footage, we continue to see good things happen. We can see here Biddy actually does sometimes have a little bit of trouble feeding her chicks. And this just goes again to show that it is really, really finicky work. She does manage to get them fed eventually, but you can just see how finicky it is. These are newborn chicks, sometimes only minutes old when we do see them first. So hats off to Biddy and Miley so far, I say. And as I mentioned, a lot of time when Miley does bring back food, he actually just opts to give it to Biddy. As she's a little bit more successful in feeding the chicks, she can stay in the nest, feed the chicks and keep them warm, and he can head straight back out to find more food. So it's a really good team dynamic they've got going on at the moment, and it promises good things. And there he is in again, 15-20 minutes later, gives the food straight to Biddy. She lifts up, shows the chicks, feeds the chicks, and he's long gone looking for more food out in the world. So we were wondering a minute ago just how many chicks are actually in this nest, and we get our answer here momentarily. Biddy decides to leave. I zoomed in quite closely here. You can see two chicks on the left, and just behind the feather you'll see another bit of movement that Miley actually attempts to feed. There we go, raised its head, and a little successful feed for that chick. He's getting his hand in now. starting to know what he's doing, which is great. So yeah, fantastic. The day plays out just similar as we've seen. Miley and Biddy coming in and out with loads of food, which is great to see. It's such a change compared to last year. We see Miley here bringing in a bit of food. But what's this? What is happening right now? Yes, you've seen it here first. It is the first official fecal sack off this channel. We're big fans of the fecal sacks here. If you remember, last year was a big talking point. And I personally believe it's why a lot of you subscribe and watch my content, because all of yous are just fecal sack mad. And in fact, I'm going to leave you with one more. Miley pops in now and he's receives another fecal sack. So keep an eye out for the next video after this one. I promise you it's a very, very interesting one. Something I did not foresee I would have to do, or well, you know what, I will leave it at that. And look forward to the next video, and we'll see you then. Bye bye.